let's go into the playoff games. This is what everybody wants to know about, and I mean the entire world. I mean the president-elect of the country is stopping to hear my take on the NFL divisional playoffs. So let's start with the game that's most interesting to me, and that is the Saints versus the Buccaneers taking place on Sunday. I believe it's the afternoon game, Saints versus Buccaneers. This is the first time in NFL history that two of the all-time leading quarterbacks for passing yards are going to meet in the playoffs. And that is absolutely crazy to me. The storyline of this game is 100% Drew Brees versus Tom Brady. Who's going to have a better game? Who's going to have bragging rights over one another? This could be the last time that they play each other in this type of. It could be. Excuse me. Let me rephrase that. It could be the first and the last time they play each other in this type of setting. Drew Brees could retire at the end of this year. Obviously, Tom Brady is very old. We know how old Tom Brady is. But this is probably going to be one of those spectacle games that could be remembered forever, not only because of who's playing, but because how good both these teams are, especially currently. But it's not the good that you would be expecting from these teams. The Saints offense, I think, struggled a little bit against Chicago. Now, Chicago has a really great defense. The Buccaneers, not so much. So maybe the Saints will do better in terms of offense. But it was really the defense that really shut down the Chicago Bears in Mitch Trubisky. And I was really impressed with the Saints defense when they played against Chicago. So for me, the storyline of this game is obviously Tom Brady versus Drew Brees, but it's also Saints defense versus Buccaneers offense. Saints defense is really hot. Buccaneers offense is really gelling as well. So who is going to be more, quote unquote, on fire in this game? And, if I had to pick right now, which I am having to pick right now, I would say the Saints. Taylor Heineke for the Washington football team almost came in and beat the Buccaneers in his first career playoff start as an emergency quarterback. And the Washington defensive line, led by Chase Young, was able to really get after Tom Brady. 3 sacks, multiple QB hits and hurries, and a well-coached Washington football team with a great defensive line was able to really take it to Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they almost won that game. Now, I think it was about an 8-point margin. It was 31-23. So almost won the game, maybe a little bit too far of a stretch, but to keep what most people would have predicted to be a blowout to a one-score game, especially for a team coming out of the NFC East, really, really impressive by Washington, but also raises some questions about Tampa Bay, the Tampa Bay offensive line, and if they'll be able to handle a Saints defense that is much, much improved over the last, 5 or 6 weeks of the season. I remember recalling a stat when preparing a segment talking about the Saints earlier this week. At some point, I think the Saints, either week 10 through week 16, they were ranked as like the number 1 defense in the NFL, something along those lines. Really good defense. So I think they'll probably get in Tom Brady's face. This is going to be a close game. Drew Brees is going to have some more time to heal from his broken ribs, so he might be playing a little bit better. He's had some rest. I mean, he played Chicago and Khalil Mack the week before, but still, more time has passed since the injury, so he might be more prepared. He might be better. I expect the Saints offense to play a little bit better, and I think that the Saints will win this game by a score of 24-17. I would think that you could probably take the Saints in all betting at this point. I really like the Saints in this game. I don't think that the Bucs have the defense to be able to keep up with the Saints, and I don't think that Tom Brady is going to have a fun time with the Saints defensive line with this game. Now, the one thing to note is that the Saints have won both meetings against the Buccaneers during the regular season, and it's very, very difficult to completely sweep a team for the entire season if you play them all 3 times. So that's something to keep in mind if you're a betting man. But I think that the Saints have this in pretty good faith here. Packers versus Rams, the other NFC game. This one I think is the most no-brainer for me. I have no faith in Jared Goff as a quarterback. He's injured with his throwing hand. He had thumb surgery. And you need to pass against Green Bay to win, or you will need to pass against Green Bay to win. Obviously, Green Bay has an okay run defense, but in order to just simply keep up with the scoring of Green Bay, you need to throw the ball. And I don't trust Jared Goff to be able to do that very well. Cam Akers is going to have a good game. He's going to try and do his best to keep the Rams in this game and perhaps try single-handedly win the game for the Rams like he did against Seattle the previous week. But I just don't trust Jared Goff. I think he's a broken, unconfident quarterback. He seems lackadaisical. He seems uninspired. He seems very, I mean, he looks like a California kid because he is a California kid, but, you know, he looks uninspired at times, and I don't think that he has his confidence, and I think this should be a relatively easy win for the Green Bay Packers. The Rams defense will do its best, and it will really keep the Rams in this game for a long time, but I think Green Bay gets an easy win here, 31-13. Bills versus Ravens. This is going to be a close game. This is going to be a high-scoring game. I would bet the over at 49.5. I think they cover that. I think the Bills beat a very good Indianapolis team last week, whereas the Titans were not so strong against the Ravens. They looked really one-dimensional against the Ravens. It's essentially going to come down to, like the Saints and Buccaneers game, it's going to come down between the two quarterbacks, Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson. Who's going to have the better game? I think Allen has had the better season. I think Allen will have the better game. He's at home for whatever that's worth. It's cold. There was a big story, might be a little bit too far of a stretch, but there was a story about Lamar earlier this week talking about the cold, how he doesn't like playing in the cold. He'd have to be going up and playing in the cold. And, you know, I think as good as Lamar Jackson has been in the back half of the season, I just don't think that the Ravens are a good enough football team to beat the Bills, especially with how well the Bills have been playing. And again, you say, well, the game against Indianapolis last week was close. And I think, well, yeah, that's because Indianapolis is genuinely a very good football team. And I think if Indianapolis played anybody else last week, they would have beaten that team. It's just because they played the Bills, which is my pick to come out of these. I think the Bills are Super Bowl contenders. Just because at this point of how poorly the Chiefs have played in the back half of the season. We'll talk about that very shortly. But I think Allen's going to have a great game. He's relatively healthy. He does essentially everything that Lamar Jackson does, and he throws the ball much, much better. So I think that when it comes down to the QB battle, I think Lamar Jackson might have a bit of a hard time. The Bills' defense is good, not great. I think that the Bills win this game. Marcus Peters is also questionable for the Ravens, and that's their best defensive back. So I really think that it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a higher scoring game, but I think in the end, the Bills are going to clinch it out and more than likely move on to the AFC Championship game. I think I take Bills 27-24 against the Ravens. And lastly here, Browns versus Chiefs. This game is very, very interesting to me because everybody appears to like to poke the Cleveland Browns. It's kind of odd. You know, you think that the consensus around the league is that everybody wants to root for the Cleveland Browns just because the Browns have not had this amount of success in a long, long time. You know, you could say, oh, you know, we're going to beat the crap out of you, but we're happy for you that you made the playoffs. I mean, that's a great accomplishment for that franchise and for that city that they're back in the playoffs and they won their first playoff game in God knows how long. But no, you know, it seems like everybody wants to poke the bear that is the Cleveland Browns. Obviously, the Steelers poked the bear and got thwomped by the Browns last week. And the Kansas City Chiefs are likewise doing a little bit of ish talking. And I think that the Browns are an extremely hungry football team. The team is hungry. They wants to win, and it can win. You know, the people that are writing off Cleveland in this game, I think that's way too premature. I think that the Browns have a very good chance to win this football game. Now, yes, Andy Reid is coming off a bye week, and I'm sure if there's one thing that you've heard from your favorite TV analyst or your favorite radio personality over the past week, it's that Andy Reid coming off a bye week is historically great, but I don't. I think there is very good potential in this game for the Browns to upset the Chiefs. The Chiefs in the last two games, a very very close game against Atlanta in in week 16, and obviously Atlanta was not a good football team last year. The Chiefs only beat the Atlanta Falcons by a score of 17-14. The Chiefs looked very slow, apathetic, and not great in that game. And then a loss to the Chargers in Week 17, but we won't hold that against the Chiefs because a loss, that is the week that you rest all your starters, especially when you're the number one seed in the conference. You rest your starters, take the L. Nobody really cares. You've got the bye week locked up. So the Chiefs have the potential to come out like they did last year against the Houston Texans and start off really, really slow and find themselves down really early. And whereas last season you kind of got the impression that no matter what happened, Patrick Mahomes was going to bail the team out. Not going to say that he's not going to do that again, because Patrick Mahomes is probably the best quarterback in the league. But I there's something in my gut that's telling me that it's different. I feel like the Chiefs are going to be extremely rusty. I think that they did not end the season well. They did not end the season strong, unlike the Browns, who are coming in with all the momentum and confidence in the world. This could be a very dangerous game for the Kansas City Chiefs. I really want to be able to tell you that the Browns are going to win this football game, and I want to be right about that, but it's like, I don't know. I really don't know. My head says Kansas City. My heart says Cleveland. So I guess what part of me wins? Is it my head or is it my heart? My head says Kansas City 34, Browns 24. But God, I would not be surprised if I'm sitting here at this very desk on Monday talking to you about how the Cleveland Browns beat the Kansas City Chiefs, because the Kansas City Chiefs came out slow, as they have at a lot of points during the season, especially during the back half of the season, and were not able to catch up with the Cleveland Browns. Baker is going to have to play safe football. Not safe football, just don't turn the ball over. Don't be the Baker Mayfield that's going to try and force passes. I will say that. I think if the Kansas City Chiefs find themselves ahead in the fourth quarter, they've probably got the victory, because if you're forcing Baker Mayfield to throw, that's exactly what the Browns don't want to happen, is forcing Baker Mayfield to throw. Although he has looked much better throwing the football this year, it seems like he does have his confidence back. I don't think the Browns want Baker Mayfield throwing the ball, trying to come back late in the fourth quarter. So if the Chiefs are winning late in the fourth quarter, that's obviously, that would be pretty good grounds to say that the Chiefs are going to win, but especially against the Browns, I think you would be safe. But if the Browns start as fast as they have the potential to, and Kansas City gets caught napping, even off a bye week with Andy Reid as your head coach, I would not be surprised if I'm sitting here on my desk in 48 hours saying, hey, I kind of told you so, that the Browns could beat the Chiefs. But my head says no, just take the safe bet, say Chiefs. I don't know if the Browns will cover. I have them just barely covering here. Chiefs 34, Browns 24. But I think we can leave it at that. You know, it's going to be a very interesting game. That is the game that I am going to be glued to my television set, unless of course it's a blowout. Then I'm probably going to go do something else and be a bad reporter. Imagine a sports guy not watching sports. But anyways, hey everyone, thank you so much for watching this segment from the Hard-Headed Sports Podcast. If you're interested in watching more highlights from the show as they come out after the show's completion, you should definitely hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell to turn on those notifications so you never miss an upload. If you're interested in listening to the whole show in its entirety, you can listen to the show on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Anchor. Again, thank you so much for watching the show. I hope you have an incredible day, and I will see you all very soon.